All right. Hello, everybody. Busting out with a green screen, so you know it's time to get real. Just want to say thank you to everybody for all your help and contributions over the years. Many of you helped make this possible by sharing, commenting, spreading the word that I was a good forecaster, and I just want to say thank you all for that. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin Perry. I'm a meteorologist. I have a degree from UMass Lowell in atmospheric science, and currently I'm a science teacher as well. So I'm starting this business as well as working as a teacher. So this is kind of what I do for my life. So thank you all for being a part of it, and there's some information I'll have for you at the end about how I've reached creator status on Facebook, and now there's subscription opportunities to see things like this more frequently for everybody. So I'll explain more about that in the coming minutes. Let's see here. I'm just going to update the screen here. Let's see. There we go. I was pressing the wrong button. Okay. So tomorrow, one of the things that we have to worry about early in the morning is this chance for freezing rain in the morning. As you can see here, there's kind of like this dip in the temperature profile across northeast Massachusetts. And that is typical for some of these colder, we call it cold air damming, where the cold is just really tough to erode at the lower layers of the atmosphere. And sometimes when we have a snow cover like we do now that we've broken our 1,028-day streak of not having 4 inches of snow, this can actually be enhanced by some snow cover on the ground. So as we get some precipitation coming in here in the morning, it'll pass over this colder layer, and that might allow us to actually have some freezing rain in the morning. So along the coast, like very close to the coast, within a mile or two, it might be a little bit too warm still. But like once you get like right along 95 and up towards like Andover, Lawrence, Lowell, places like that, that's where you could probably see some of the more icier conditions in the morning. Just remember that one of the reasons why roads get so treacherous, especially bridges and overpasses, is that there's no ground under them. So those are some of the places that get slippery the fastest in those conditions. All right, so when you're driving, especially in the morning, and you're getting off a highway or something, that's one of the first places that you should really be careful, because again, there's no insulating ground under the bridge to keep the ground warmer. So that should end, by noon or so. Eventually, we do get. You can see there's a warming trend, from southeast winds, where that ocean layer, marine layer, does start to come inland a little bit. And actually, later on in the night, actually, it does start to come southeast again. Before maybe definitely on Sunday, we start to see a much stronger flow out of the southeast that erodes that. So tomorrow is not a great day, and it's just kind of drizzly, damp. There's going to be some showers, and I can show you more about that right here. So here's our storm system that's going to be impacting us over the next day or so, and then we'll even look at the next one in a few minutes. But when you see this loop start, you're going to see that tomorrow morning, here's this warmer layer that produces that first batch of showers. And then later on in the day, there's another one. And then by Sunday night and Monday morning, we get the cold front that's coming across. So it's kind of a dismantled system. It's in a few pieces here. And it's not overly strong. I was thinking that it was actually going to be a much heavier rain event than what we're probably going to see here. Probably 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain is likely out of this system. But for now, these storm systems are heading up through the Great Lakes and kind of throwing some warmer air at us. And because of the cold air at the ground, it's creating some of these drizzly, damp conditions, and tomorrow morning is going to be one of the more iffy parts of all of that. As we get into Sunday again, there's more of a pronounced warm front that comes through, and then later in the day, on Sunday night and Monday, we see the cold front with some more showers. So we're in kind of not a great winter pattern right now. So just breaking down the 7-day that I just created a few minutes ago, we do have the freezing drizzle tomorrow. We have more showers in the afternoon and evening, and then a little bit of break on Sunday. After that warm front comes through in the morning, there might actually be 3 or 4 hours, or maybe even up to 6 hours or so, where we get a little bit of a break on Sunday. So, by Sunday afternoon and Sunday night, the showers come back, and that cold front that I was just showing on the previous screen, that comes through, and that will give us, the majority of our rain out of that system. Then we have a little bit of a break on Tuesday, and then another system comes through on Wednesday, and that is, another soaker with 50-degree temps and another 3/4 of an inch of rain. So you're probably saying, Justin, look, you're talking about snow conditions coming soon, so what's the deal? And the cool part about this is that you can actually see towards the end of this 7-day forecast, the temperature is starting to drop really quickly as we get towards the end of the week. Well, that's probably going to continue, and I can show you why. So this is the European model where we're actually looking at the upper level structure of the atmosphere across the northern hemisphere. So Massachusetts is about right here, right? And then you see the Great Lakes over to the west coast. We have California, the west coast. Way up here by my head, there's Alaska. Up here is Greenland. So these are some of the anchor points that we tend to look at when we look at the northern hemisphere weather pattern. Now, right now, when this loop resumes, I'm going to show you how we have a very different pattern than what ends up happening. So right here, this is today. We have this ridge along the east coast, a storm system tomorrow, it's a storm system on Wednesday. But then look at how it congeals into part of the polar vortex up here. And then we get this ridge on the west coast thanks to an upper level system that was across the Aleutian Islands. So when we get that big ridge, that basically ends up allowing storm systems to drop way down deep into the southeast part of the United States before they arc off to the east and go, just south of us, where we would probably have a chance at some decent snow systems at that point. So I wanted to make sure that everyone understands that this is like a textbook pattern that we see coming up at the end of the ensemble run here. When we see that there's a huge ridge on the west coast that arcs way up into Alaska, like this, and then you have the flow way down, very steeply down into the central part of the United States or the Great Lakes, that's a prime setup for us to have storm systems that have plenty of cold air, plenty of moisture, and also because of the flow that, where it's diving down deep into the southern part of the U.S., we can actually get some phasing of systems to come together. So before I wrap this up, I just wanted to show you kind of a still picture here, because this is basically the textbook image that you could if you said to me, Justin, draw it up on your own without ever seeing a model, just tell me what kind of pattern you would draw if you wanted to have a snowstorm pattern coming up. Well, guess what? This is the one, right? So again, we get this big low pressure system that in trough across the Aleutian Islands, and then the flow around that is like this. So that pumps a ridge up along the British Columbia coast in the western United States, and then the ridge basically goes down the slope of the Rockies, and then the trough bottoms out across southern New England or along the east coast. Now that pattern, I got to tell you, as drawn on the Euro ensembles here, it's about as good as it gets. Now, we have to be careful about this because even in great patterns, we've had no results in the past. And especially in the past few years, there have been times when we've had some pretty good patterns and not really much to speak for because of timing issues and things like that. It just didn't work out, right? So I just wanted to explain to everybody this is a pattern that is a good setup, But by no means does it guarantee that we're going to get a certain system to come down and have the moisture and the spacing and the timing to create a monster snowstorm. We just don't know that yet. But what we're basically saying here is that when we see this pattern, that's when we go, all right, we got to watch this time period. So again, this we see up here, this is February 10th, right? So as we're getting towards the second week of February, this is the pattern that we're looking for. It's far away. There's a lot that can change in the meantime. But one thing I can tell you is that the ensembles, they try to account for the variability. So when we average them out and we get this type of image with this type of amplitude at this range from 10 to 14 days away, it's a signal that we just don't see very often. And when it is this pronounced, it usually means something. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that as we head into January, the pattern is going to flip to a more favorable snow pattern. And based on what we see in this image here, there's actually some stability to it because of we have a very large upper level low over the Aleutian Islands, and also this stretched piece of what appears to be the tropospheric polar vortex. So, this is not going to get dismantled easily at all by anything. And when we have this flow that arcs up like this, that's called a negative North Atlantic oscillation pattern, which is basically that you get these two highs. Try to make this visually accurate here. We get these two highs that basically pinch and close off the way for this polar vortex to lift out. So when we get that, that's when we know that we're not just in a brief transient weather pattern that's going to produce snow, or at least cold temperatures. This does seem to look like it's going to have some legs to hold on for at least, multiple days, maybe a week, and depending on how things go after that, it could last through January. We just don't know for sure going that far out. One thing I can tell you is that the Euro weeklies, which do go that far out, actually do show this pattern sustaining through the end of the month. The Euro weeklies, any model that goes out 3, 4, 5 weeks, can't really trust it too much. But when they do have this signal that seems to line up with what is currently happening at the end of the ensemble run, that's kind of encouraging for at least some type of accuracy. All right, so that kind of wraps up my little speech here. The only other thing I was going to tell you about is that, look, one of the cool things that I'm doing now is I'm having people subscribe through Facebook, so you can subscribe right through Facebook to be able to go into a private group where you can see all this stuff, plus bus stop forecasts and a bunch of new graphics that I'm working on daily now. A new weather mapping system, radar system. There's just a lot. There's just a lot of cool things I'm doing with the support that everybody's been providing me. So thank you all for that. And like I said, your investment in me results in investment in you. So basically, the more people that subscribe, the more people that are giving me resources to work with, the better the products I'm going to be able to provide for you guys. So please consider signing up. I mean, at worst, if you don't like it, I can refund you. There's all kinds of stuff that we can do to work things out. It's $1.99 a month through Facebook. There's a link that I can post in the chat after this. And also, you can go onto my website, NorthShoreWeatherService.com, where you can see some of the information that you need to be able to sign up for that as well. If there's anybody that has any questions, I'm just going to check my phone because that's how I can monitor the chat right now. So don't mind me while I check that. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them at me right now before I sign off. And I'm just looking to see if anybody had any questions up until this point. Okay. So on that note, I just want to add, what do you get from subscribing? You get added into a private Facebook group where I basically live in social media land. I'm in that group 24/7 talking to people. Sometimes I even comment at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and they're like, "Do you even sleep?" And I'm like, "No, I really don't." But yeah, so that's a great way to get weather information all the time. I post updates like the things that you see here on the screen, plus the 7-day graphic that I already showed. And so that's by subscribing. What I want everyone to know is that I'm planning on, and I would really like to, do a show like this once a week, where we talk about the pattern coming up, we talk about any of the near-term issues that we're having with the weather, and just I might even start to throw in some educational stuff that I will also be more pronounced and more content behind the subscriber wall, but I will allow you guys to see some of the stuff that we learn about in weather, and I'll have that on some of the shows as well. So again, my thing is that I'm all about educating the people. I think that's one of the main reasons why I ended up having such a large following, is that, you know, I was always trying to forecast plus show the details of why the weather is doing what it does and why it's so difficult to forecast. One thing I can tell you is I've already made a giant show last year about how computer models work and why they are sometimes very wrong and why sometimes they make us look really bad. So if you are ever interested in learning about computer models and how they work for us, that is a very it's a very interesting thing that I put together for everybody. So that's the type of thing that you can get through subscribing as well. So again, thank you all. Aaron, I don't really see power ups being much of a concern. Usually we need around a quarter of an inch of ice accretion on tree branches and wires to really start to get to that point where things start to like fall apart. For tomorrow, we're not really looking at anything that substantial. Maybe there could be a light coating on some stuff, but I really, you know, outside of the coast, there could be maybe a hundredth or 500ths of an inch of an accumulation of something. It's very light. It's freezing drizzle. Again, it's not that tight. It's not an ice storm. If we were talking about that type of ice accumulation on stuff where power outages were going to be a concern, I would be talking about that for a long time. Since I just kind of brushed over it in the beginning, you can probably assume that it's not going to be that big of a deal. But like I said, if you are driving in the morning, you might want to take it slow. Bridges and overpasses, definitely be careful. And, you know, like, just watch where be careful where you're walking, because sometimes that layer of ice can be really thin. And when you have some snow like we do now, it can make it even more slippery. So just remember that, like, you know, this is just the start of the year, and we're not really used to walking on this stuff because the past couple winters haven't really been too conducive for the conditions that we're having outside right now. So just remember, we're New Englanders. We know how to get through it, but every year there's that whole first storm and that whole first week of, like, the ice and snow where people seem to forget what the heck they're doing. So let's hope we're getting through that with as minimum number of accidents as we possibly can. And I'm just telling you, like, look, it's common sense to everybody, but just remember, like, you know, sometimes the black ice can be a problem. And I don't want anyone that watches this video to be one of the people that smashes into something tomorrow. Okay? Plain and simple. All right. So I don't really see any questions, but I am glad, more than happy to hang out for a second and just remind everybody. Again, we had a 1,000-day streak without 4 inches of snow that just ended with this previous storm. So it's been record-setting in terms of how low our snowfall has been the past few years. We had to go back to 1985, where we had a streak of 711 days, and we broke that by about 290 or something like that. I don't know the exact math off the top of my head. I don't want to embarrass myself, but yeah, we broke the record for under 4 inches of snow in one day. We broke that record by about 300 almost. So it's been a rough snow lover a couple years around here, and like I said, that is kind of unprecedented in Boston's history. We did have an exceptional run snowfall wise, in much of the 2000s. So many of us joke that this is, kind of regression to the mean, and that may be true. We don't know for sure if climate change is starting to slowly make a tiny impact here on our longer term snowfall scales, but the average that we're using now, the 30-year average, is actually 49 inches for Boston because of that very snowy season there, between 2003 and 2020 or something like that. So we had some really good seasons in there that really elevated that average, especially 2014, 2015 with 110 inches. So just remember, where I forecasted at the beginning of the year, if you didn't see, I forecasted 26 inches of snow for the season. Given the pattern that you see on the wall behind me, I'm a little worried, to be honest with you. And even with the 4 inches that we have already officially at Logan now, I don't really like my chances, but we've seen worse. So I don't want to, count myself out that I've lost, but it doesn't look great right now. If you had to really ask me, what I think at this moment in time, I think we're probably heading for an average season at this point, given the fact that we've got 4 inches so far. We've got a pretty decent pattern to start January, it looks like. So, if I could just throw my winter forecast away from Halloween and say, all right, here's my new one, let's start fresh here, I'd say, yeah, we're probably looking at an average season between 40 and 50. But, anything can happen later on in the year. Especially, we're not really seeing the types of patterns that match up as much as we used to with El Nino and La Nina. So we're a little bit, these issues are compounding our difficulties with making some winter forecasts. So I'll leave it at that for now, but that's the type of thing that I'll be explaining in some of the educational videos that I'll be creating in the next couple weeks. Okay? All right, so I don't really see any questions, so I'm going to sign off here, but I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for watching, and please consider signing up, subscribe. I'm always working on behalf of my people and making sure that we have the most up-to-date information and that it's delivered to you in a way that you can understand and really embrace. That's my style, right? So, again, thank you all. And like I said, if you subscribe, it's just going to help me make even better stuff for all of us. So think about it. If you have $1.99 a month to spare, not a bad thing to contribute to. All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful New Year's. It looks like it's going to be starting on the wetter side, but we'll be trending colder and towards some snow as we get into the second half, the middle part of January, as you can see behind me. Thank you all, and have a good night.